Welcome to The Voice Boys. My name is Druid, and my co-host is Chris. Thank you so much for listening to us as we talk about ADHD and autism and how it impacts our daily lives as we navigate the various needs to being voice actors. This episode is brought to you by Spiteful Optimism. When the world is on fire and you refuse to allow yourself to succumb to the overwhelming pressure of despair, you relish in the fact that you at least have a glass of water. Spiteful Optimism. Don't let them win. There we go. We're going.
We're going.
We are jumping straight into things, which
Indeed, we are.
That's kind of like the ADHD way, right? Just kind of jump in and figure it out.
I think so. I think it's the best. That's the best way for me to do things. It's certainly the most exciting and most gives me the most dopamine, I think, is whenever you just jump into it and then it ends up being successful, and that feels so good.
Yeah, or the opposite happens where you jump in and try to figure out and you realize how terrible you are at said thing. And you go, I'm not immediately a professional at this, so I'm going to abandon it.
Yep. That is me with most of my endeavors in my life.
Yeah, same. And I've had to really learn how to like take a step back and go like, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I should learn. Like I should take the time to actually figure this out instead of assume I'm going to know.
My most toxic personality trait is that I can watch someone else do something and assume that I can do it just as good as them, despite how long they've been doing it. And when I can't, I'm mad at them about it.
Right? It's like they made it look so easy. I could have swore I could do this.
Well, it's actually not that hard. I've already got it figured out. It's actually not that hard. I just gotta
really
you're just sweating about it. You're a sweat.
Yeah.
You try hard.
You've only been doing this for 30 years, but like, just like simmer down.
Yeah, calm down. Stop showing off.
Yeah, right. Yes. I was actually thinking too, like, it's kind of like in old school video games. Like, this is like, I didn't get diagnosed right until 2020, so I don't know why people didn't realize sooner because I would never read the instruction manuals for anything. Like that's one of those things I just do, like especially in video games. Oh, there's a book. Let's go and figure this out. I still do that with games.
I was kind of the opposite, but also the same. I would always read the instruction manual for the pictures when I was younger. I was always real into the manual graphics and the art that were in the manuals.
I love old school books, right? Like, and I wish that was a thing that would come back because like the lore that was in there, the character descriptions, the story tidbits.
Yeah, there would sometimes be lore in books that are not in the game anywhere.
Yeah, and I love that shit, which was honestly probably like some of the first inklings of my love of like storytelling and character and like, you know, exploring worlds and things like that. Like that's something I've always had that passion for. And yeah, like I think early video games, reading the books to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say SNES and Nintendo 64 they were like for me they were like the cornerstones of that.
Yes,
they had all of the best booklets in my opinion.
I mean, I kind of want to like design video games just so I can make booklets for said video game.
Careful, that sounds like a real ADHD trap right there.
I mean, it's just like, let's take on this very large task that's going to be easy, right? As we just discussed. Like it's actually not that hard.
The problem is that because of the kind of minds that we possess, we'll make the booklets first.
Oh yes, 100%. Because then once the booklet's done, we don't make the game.
That's the easiest and most exciting and satisfying part is making the booklet, right? and
Yes.
then and then you have that to preface like this whole fucking video game that
Hmm.
we'll never
Yeah.
get to.
It's like, guys, I have this amazing booklet for this video game. It's really detailed and it's really amazing, and I put a lot of work into it. Oh, cool! Like, where's the game about that?
Yep.
You know, it's in progress.
It reminds me very much of the conversation talking about people that, you know, possess those kinds of struggles where we know someone personally who would get this big grand idea and then they would just make like a brochure.
Oh, yes. I was honestly, I almost said brochure instead of
Yeah.
booklet.
And then
uh,
that project would go nowhere. Like that's
yes.
they would spend all day working on this brochure or like this pamphlet and then they'd be like, look what I made. And then the next day that project fell off the face of the earth. You know.
Yeah, and I feel for people that do things like that because I sure have done things like that in my life, but like there comes a point in time where you learn how to like keep moving forward, right? And I think that's the important like next step, um, which honestly, that is triggering the ADHD like web of thoughts. I was just reading um, Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, and there is a point in that book that it talks about like what is the most important thing a man can do or something like that. I can't remember all the details because ADHD, but like it was talking about, it's like it's not the first step, it's always the next step.
That's a really good line.
Yeah.
I like that.
So because it's like, yeah, right. Like that actually makes sense. And that really resonated with me because I was like, I'm a person that often takes the first step, right? Because like that's the excitement, the interest, the brochure making, right?
Yeah, well, that technically is like the third step, but we start the problem with that is that we start with the part that is the most accessible and the most
Yeah.
like rewarding at that time, and that's the struggle. But you're right, at some point, at some age, you have to realize that you have to become aware, self-aware of your own patterns,
Yes,
and that's the struggle
it is.
is acting upon that self-awareness.
And that's where like learning how to take the next step is important because we run out of the dopamine on whatever first step that we choose and struggle to take the next, you know. But I have learned, in taking the next step, the dopamine comes back,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and honestly, that's kind of very relevant to my voice acting career, as non-existent as my career is at the moment, other than just like a few things, because like I've been wanting to become a voice actor for a long time. And I've taken a lot of like first steps, right? Like I've taken the step of making the demos, not demos, samples, I should say, because those are different. Demo and samples are different. Um, so I have the samples, I have the website, I have um, like I've learned a lot of stuff, right? Like I've attended some classes and seminars and Q&As and you know and I have all the knowledge. But the next step, what is the next step for me, anyways? Um, and I'm this year is the taking the next step in that process for me, and that's actually like doing coaching, right? Like and figuring out how to get booked.
I think that's going to be one of the biggest steps is learning the method of I hate just repeating words over and over again, but learning the method of enacting those steps,
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
that's really, really important. You are further along than me in this journey because right now I got samples and recorded monologues and no website. I still haven't done that yet.
that's your next step then.
It is.
Yeah. And I think that's important to have that defined, right? Because especially for anyone that might be neurodivergent, whether it be ADHD, autistic, or otherwise, and you're struggling to be like, hey, I don't really know where to start, or I don't know what's going on or how to do these things. You gotta like breaking it down step by step. That's what's been helping me. And like, even though like I haven't really booked a whole lot, I haven't done a whole lot of things, I'm still making that progress. Um, and so that's always been like what's keeping me going is having that reflection of like, oh, like I'm getting there.
Yeah, that's really important. Oh no. Let me shut all that shit up. So sorry.
How dare you?
How could I?
How unprofessional.
By the gods.
Who is it? Is it a sexy text message?
No, it's Discord. It's just
Uh,
fucking Discord blowing up at all times. I'm a part of 47,000 servers, and
uh,
I just forgot to mute one of them, you know?
yeah, no, so I'm also one of those like ADHD autistic people that does not like sound notifications ever. So my phone and everything is always 24/7 on silent.
Yeah, no, same. I almost always have my stuff on silent. I have found that I feel like it's a really big deal whenever I tell someone, "Hey, if you need me tonight, I'm gonna have my phone ringer on all night." And
Ugh.
I feel like some people are just like, okay,
Yeah, that's a
but for me,
totally normal
for
thing to do.
that is not normal for me. I
No,
feel
no,
like that
no.
is a fucking love language that I'm
Oh,
I'm giving you. I'm like, I love you so much that I'm gonna sleep through the night with my ringer on. So
a
if you need anything,
1000%. I
you
like
know,
I feel that so hard because like I'm 100% the same way. The only time that I even turn it to vibrate, right? Like
yeah,
if I'm awake and and I'm talking to someone or someone might be messaging me and I just turn my phone to vibrate even, it's like it's because that person is important to me and I do not want to miss their message or call.
yeah,
But yeah, turning the ringer on, like that's like,
yeah.
whew,
I
like
want to
oh
be
man,
able I want to be able to wake up and tend to you. Like that's the kind
yeah,
of love that I feel like I'm projecting when I say that. And I've had
yes,
responses that are like, "Oh, okay." Like
right? It's like
and in my mind I'm like, did you not hear what I
yeah,
just proposed to you?"
it's like like this is a big step, right? Like in our relationship that I'm turning my ringer on for you. Like it's
Let me just say it
massive.
again. I love you so much that I'm going to sleep with my ringer on if you need anything.
Mm, yeah. I'm willing to wake up in the middle of the night when I already struggle to go to sleep because I have sleep issues that I don't care that you would wake me up.
Yep.
And also, I will not be annoyed that it's you. Like anyone
It's a
else.
huge thing to
Yeah.
give to someone. I think it is
Yeah.
anyway. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
Oh my
It's like
gosh.
really.
Like
Like you don't have to go to bed.
you don't have to
Yeah.
do that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I understand. No, yes, I agree. And the- I I'm glad I'm not alone in this, to be honest, because I have felt this way for so long that like because I've told people too, it's like yeah, like I'm turning my phone to vibrate, I turn my ringer on, and it's the same. It's like oh okay, like it's like make a bigger deal about this, okay? Like because this is a massive thing for me.
This is a big thing for me. This is a big step.
Yes. Oh man. God, gotta love it.
Yeah,
And
no, it's the endless Discord notifications because I feel like I'm added to a new server every other day
dude,
almost.
I'm in like 100 servers, so I get it.
Yeah, I purge about once a month now. I'm just like, I haven't been in this server in 6 months, so why is
Mm.
this still here?
Yep, yep. Oh man, I mean it's the curse of knowing a lot of people, you know,
Yeah, and
but
all
never.
of the people in the spaces that we are like aligned with
Yep,
are very much in multiple servers themselves and
yep.
run multiple servers and are in servers with other friends and introduce us to these friends who are in multiple servers. And it's a nightmare. It's
Hmm.
a social nightmare, and I hate it so much. I also feel very loved, and I also love it, but I
Yep.
also hate it.
Yep, I agree. It's one of those things. It's like, please, let's pick one where we're all there, just one.
Oh, this discussion is happening with the almost the same exact people in both of these servers. Not into that. That's I don't know what I already said.
Yeah,
And so I will refuse to take place in this discussion on this server because, it's a mess to me.
yeah. And the thing is, like, I get so socially overwhelmed that, uh, like you said, I feel loved being in these servers and being asked to be there. But like, there's that part of me that feels slightly guilty that I can't participate in that space as much as I'd like to, or really sometimes at all. You know, and like, yeah, that's another thing, and like that kind of goes back to like building relationships and connections with people, both professionally and like just socially. Like that's an area that I surprisingly struggle with, like which some people probably hearing that may not see that, like think that or see that, because I'm I'm a bit of an extroverted ADHD autistic person, but I'm also very introverted too.
I think
Um,
that also is very common with people like us.
yeah.
Because I for the longest time throughout my life always considered myself just an extrovert. But I would also find that I would suddenly become a dickhead after a while, and it took it took a lot of learning who I was and learning me to realize, oh, I do need the alone time. Like
Yeah.
I do need that space for myself. So like whenever I'm going out, whenever I'm being social, very extroverted, outward, like love to meet people. And then now, like in my moments of silence, I could sit there and recharge. And I realize now that it's extroverted introversion is a thing.
Yep. Ambivert, as they
Ambivert,
call it.
that's the best way to say. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
silly thing that I said.
No, it works. But no, the thing is though, like in person, I'm excellent at connecting with people and talking to people. But um, digitally, I struggle, right? Like texting people, messaging people, and like staying in contact because like I don't really always know what to say, right? Like, or like I don't always like, and oftentimes I find myself like being prompted by something to reach out to someone, but it's always like for something like maybe not socially, but just be like, oh, I remember we were talking about doing this thing together. Which I like. I don't know. Like some people may see that as me always like just wanting something from them. I don't know if that's the case, but that just kind of feels sometimes to me. Um, so like yeah, like reaching out and like just having a conversation with someone. It always just kind of reduced to just like sending memes back and to forth to each other or TikTok videos or whatever. Um, and yeah, like it kind of feels a little bit socially isolating because it's like I would love to like spend time with these people, but I'm like, distance is a thing. And like I'm cool with like sitting in silence with people, but like sitting in silence with people online is
They're
harder.
almost there almost feels like an obligation to fill the silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
The other night, whenever we did a little thing where I was talking about how I really enjoy or I missed spontaneity. Like I had the kinds of friendships for a long time in my life where we would just say, hey, let's go camping or let's go fishing. And we would just go, at a
Yeah.
moment's notice and it would just happen. And I loved that. And I remember all I was doing was just kind of expressing like missing that. And then a sweet, sweet friend of ours, I'm not sure if we're saying names on here or not, but a very sweet friend of ours was like, "Hey, how about we do a spontaneous hangout tonight?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay." And then she made like a brochure and like planned the event. And
Yes.
I was like, this is very sweet. This is not at all what I meant by spontaneous. And also this is not spontaneous. But
This
but the
is
notion was very, very sweet
yeah.
and uh
It's spontaneity.
yeah, planned
That's that.
spontaneity. And I was like, that's not spontaneity. But
Yeah.
I get what you're doing,
But in
and
the
that's very,
online
very sweet.
sphere, it's hard to be spontaneous,
It
right?
is. It really is, especially with a group of people.
Yeah. But no,
Um,
I get what you
there
mean because like when I was living in California, I had this friend and like she was a great friend and like I remember I was live streaming, right? And just like hanging out, live streaming, talking, goofing off, and all of a sudden I hear footsteps coming down the hallway towards my room, and my door busts open, and she runs in, hands me a thing of cookies, and then just fucking bolts. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And just like it was just like a random spontaneous delivery of cookies while I was live streaming. And she knew I was live streaming too. Like, and I
But
was
that
like,
just adds to it. That's great.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah, and just left. I was like, what just happened?
I love that. I'm one
Yeah.
of I feel like few people in my adult relationships that really loves surprise visits.
Yeah.
I
Like
I love it when like a friend just shows up to surprise you. And I know a lot of my adult friends they hate that. Like they want to have the plan. They want like everything to be scheduled. I fucking love it.
it's
It's a dopamine bomb for me almost, you know.
Yeah, it's like a 50-50 thing for me. Like there's specific people that have like open invitation,
Okay, yeah, I
right?
should go back and say like not everybody,
Yeah.
not everyone in my life is allowed to do this to me, but
Yeah.
there are a pretty good handful of people that if they just showed up, I would be I would be
Ecstatic.
enthralled. I would
Yeah.
be yeah, ecstatic.
I'd be like, let's vibe, let's hang out. Yeah, because like I'm very in the like my plan, I must follow my plan. And so disruption to my plan can be dysregulating. But then there's like, updates or like caveats of like if plan is interrupted by XYZ. It's very like program computer based, I guess. Then fuck it, let's go. Fuck it, we
Yeah.
ball. Yeah,
I very much have like I need a routine. I like my routine, but my
yeah,
routine is not set on a time frame. So I can begin my routine at any time in the day, if that makes
yeah.
any sense. As long as I have that routine, I'm still happy. But my routine doesn't have like it's not like I have to wake up at 7 in the morning and do this by 8 o'clock. That's a schedule to me and not the same as a routine. And that's
Yeah.
that's kind of like my difference on that with people.
Yeah, and so like this is actually one of my like ADHD coaching and we're kind of crossing topics. Um my one of the tools I use, especially when I have clients, is to to kind of get out of the idea of routines and more into systems. And even though like they're essentially the same thing, but the difference is a system is variable based off of the day's input, essentially. So like I personally like waking up by like 8 a.m. I'm one of those people that's a night owl and a morning person. So I'm always tired. However, um, based off of like how awake I am, kind of starts my like system of the day of like, okay, if I wake up at 8 a.m. and I'm still like really dog tired, then I will give myself more time to just like vibe in bed and like boot up. You know. But if I wake up and I have a lot more energy, then I'm like, okay, I'll get up by this time. And like that starts the system of the day of like, oh, I have this much energy so I can do these things. Right. So like if I'm like, oh, this is a low energy day, I don't even think about certain things, right? Like I don't even try to accomplish tasks that I know take more energy. And so it's all like variable to how I'm feeling in that day and like what's going on.
I
And
do. I have sorry, you finish
no,
your
you're
thought.
no, that was essentially it. Like it was just taking in the input and just adjusting your day to that.
The only thing that really messes me up in my routines or in my whole day is I have a I don't know what this is. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know how to get it monitored or whatever, but I have a very episodic insomnia. And when it happens, it just fucking happens and it will happen for like three
Yep.
days straight. And then it will just stop. And I don't know what the trigger is. I don't really know why it happens. That happened last night, actually. I was up till about 5 in the morning, and then I was finally able to get to sleep for like 3 hours. you know, I am running on 3 hours. I feel fine, and that's the other part is like when it starts, I usually will sleep very very little and feel fine for like 3 days in a row,
Yep.
and then it's at the end of those 3 days I just get fucking like I know by the end of this week I'm gonna feel terrible because of this. But this is the
Hmm.
first day, so I feel fine right now. And that's something that uh, really fucks up my routine. And
Yeah. And I get that. Like I don't have that same experience, but I have sleep issues. My sleep cycle will change. Um, it's kind of like my go-to bedtime is like midnight to 1 a.m. Like that's like the sweet spot for me. If I go to bed at 2 a.m., that starts the chain of events that'll eventually have me like becoming nocturnal until I reset back to where I'm meant to be. So like um but like it can happen randomly. Like you said, like it'll just all of a sudden I just can't sleep, you know, or like something disrupts my sleep or whatever. But like that's a big issue. Yeah, like it and I am trying to account for those times now because like if I go to bed before midnight, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. Doesn't matter. If I go to bed at 9, 10, 11, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. every single time. Um, and so there are days where like I'll just like drop in energy and fall asleep. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm now going to be aware that I'm waking up at 3 a.m. So at 3 a.m., I'm up and I just start my day like normal.
child of the witching hour, I see.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um, so
Yeah.
that's called I think it's called something like a rotating circadian rhythm,
Yep.
right? Actually, the I again won't say names just yet, but someone who is working on the uh, music for us, he has a rotating circadian rhythm, and it is like
It
You never know
sucks.
when that dude is awake. Like, you never know when he's gonna be awake, and it's the wildest thing. And he's always had that.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
I grew up with him. He's always been like that.
I've always been like this too, and I'm just now at 38 really starting to get a handle on it. Um, because like partly because I have more awareness to it. 'Cause, in the past, just being shamed for my sleep schedule or like trying to force myself to conform to it. Um, that did not help me. So I had to find the freedom to be able to have that kind of sleep schedule. Um, because yeah, like right now, my sleep schedule is I'm going to bed around 2 to 3. So it's like it's in that. Eventually, I'll probably not sleep, or I'll get like really, really tired really early, and then I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and just, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
But I get to that point now instead of being like, oh man, I'm up at 3 a.m. This is not great, or like, whatever am I gonna do? I'm like, I guess I'll start my day. Like I'll make some
Hey,
coffee.
make the fucking best of it, dude.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I do.
literally
Yeah.
I'll make some coffee and I'll just start my day. And honestly, some of my most productive days are when I'm waking up at 3 a.m. and it's like
Yeah.
quiet outside.
That well, there is a very peaceful like ambience
Mhm.
to like those really early mornings. I remember when I was doing the strongman training back 6 years ago at this point. But when I was in the middle of that, I was eating every 3 hours, and I would wake up. I had an alarm where I would wake up every 3 hours, and I had something ready. I would just go to the fridge, I would scarf it down, and then go back to sleep. And I was usually waking up at like 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning sometimes. And I would just be up for the day. And I remember like starting my routine before the sun came up. There was something so peaceful about
Yeah.
it. And by the time like 10 o'clock comes around, 10 a.m., like you just feel you've been up for a while. You're like at the prime of the day at 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
It felt good. But then also, about 5 in the afternoon comes around.
You're like, I'm gonna go to bed.
You're like, it's almost bedtime now.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I don't like going to bed early.
And I and
So
I also I also just want to say for clarification, I am not saying that my lifestyle at that point was healthy in any way. It was an obsession, and I
yeah.
realize that now. So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. I honestly wish I did not have to sleep,
Oh, me too. Oh,
right?
dude.
Like,
I
and
I
it's not because like I'll be the most productive person ever. It's just like I just, I mean, yeah, I probably would be more productive, but it's more of like I would feel like would have more time just
you would.
in general.
The
Um,
one of the craziest statistics to me, because it's not really a statistic, it's kind of like a fact of averages and a fact of mathematics, is by the time you're 24 years old, 8 of those years you spent asleep on average.
yeah,
That's crazy, dude.
yeah, dude. I guess you're right. I would feel like I'd have more time if I didn't have to sleep. I would, yes. It's like
It's
I
just it's
would
a
indeed
yeah.
actually have more time, but like it would feel like just I guess it's more of a control thing, right? Like I would be able to control my day and my time better, and like I wouldn't feel like I'm wasting time because like the loop of like getting tired is a span of, I don't know, 2, 3 hours, right? Like you're just tired for 2, 3 hours, then you sleep. And like in those 2, 3 hours, you're probably not being very focused or productive. And then you sleep for anywhere between, I don't know, 3 to 20 hours. Not really 20, but like 3 to maybe like 8 or 9 hours. Like some of my like days where I just like sleep for forever. So you sleep for those hours and then you're waking up and then you have to spend another hour or two waking up and getting started and then you're through your day you're just struggling to focus and you're struggling to do things and you're struggling to, it's just like a constant struggle. And this is very akin to like the ADHD autism experience, right? Like, you know, people that don't have these struggles probably will not relate to this. And probably like, well, you just need to eat better or exercise or you just need to blah 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 blah. I'm like, I've done it all. Doesn't
Yeah,
change.
that's the unwarranted advice that ends up being things that you have already tried. Is
Yep.
I know it,
Yep.
it comes from a good place, but
It does.
just shut up.
It, and and
Just shut up. Yeah. No,
and the thing is, like, it's not that it doesn't help at all. It just doesn't change the whole experience, right? Like, I do feel better when I'm exercising and eating better, but that doesn't mean that I'm more effective in my day by a lot, right? I still get the tired. I still sleep like shit. I still struggle to wake up. It because that's just like my brain, right? Um, but yes, doing the things that are healthy for you are healthy for you.
it's
uh,
it's a fact.
yeah,
It works.
but um, since this is a voice acting podcast,
Yeah. Well, I was actually getting ready to call the transition as well. So,
um, well, I wanted to kind of circle back real quick to the connecting and talking to people and things. Is like one of the biggest things when it comes to like the voice acting industry that a lot of people talk about is networking, right? And if you're ADHD or autistic, like myself, networking can be challenging. Like I'm apparently a really good networker, right? A lot of people are like, "Yo, you're so good at networking and knowing all these people." I'm like, yes and no. Like I think I have a lot of opportunities, and I'm because of my extrovertedness, and I think my ability to just talk to people, which most likely came from the fact that I grew up in a military household and moved every 3 to 4 years of my life. So I had to learn how to talk to people, or I would just never have friends. So I had like those advantages, and but I still really, really struggle with professional networking digitally because of like the social aspect of like, how do I connect with someone on a professional basis and not make it seem like I'm just talking to them because I know that they are potentially a professional contact and would help me out and push my career forward. Because if I make it too overt that that's what I want, they're not going to want to help me. So I have to be like balance that social structure of talking to them like a person, but also having the professionalism in that. And I struggle to balance that because I'm either really extreme on the personal or really extreme on the professional. And like I notice that like if you're too professional, the likelihood of things to progress stop.
oh yeah,
But if you're
definitely, yeah.
yeah, and if you're too personal, then again, the likelihood for professionalism to expand to go stops as well. So like I really struggle on that social side of things, and I think that's one thing that I really really want to learn, especially this year, um, as a aspiring. I wouldn't say aspiring. I am a voice actor. As a voice actor, that is something that I want to learn is how to balance that.
I think that's a really good goal. Yeah, the practice of selling yourself.
Well, the thing is, like, it's not even like in that sense, it's not necessarily like selling yourself, right? Because if you're trying to make an actual connection with a person on a professional level, um, sometimes that is just like you're legitimately like networking, right? And like talking to people. And that could just be like asking them about their experience in the industry. But like you don't that goes back to you don't want to ask too much from them, right? Like it's not like a you don't want to pick their brain. All right, like that's a thing that you don't want to say or do. or ask. Um, and that, but like, but then still being able to get the information that you're looking for. Now the selling yourself part, that is like direct marketing, right? Like you're marketing to a potential client, and that's less the social balance of like networking and connecting with people, because both of those can play a role in voice acting, and those both are equally important because the voice acting industry is a small industry. You don't want to piss off like other voice actors. Um, and it's always going to be in your best interest to connect and like network.
Yeah. I have no experience in networking and voice acting, so I hope to learn more this year.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And
Um,
the only thing I know is just like my knowledge of networking in general, and just like, um, one person that I honestly consume most of their content is Astoria Redhead. Like she has a ton of great content. Um, and this is something that she has talked about of like, don't just be like, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" Like that's one of those like no-nos. And um least likely going to get a response if you say that to someone.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could see that as coming across as far as socially goes, coming off as inauthentic almost.
Yeah. You also have to like consider too, like if you are emailing or contacting a professional in the industry, there are other people also doing it. So
Yeah,
like if you are going to be requesting time from someone, you want to do it as authentically as possible.
yeah. I like to assume that I'm the only one who thought of it, so
Yeah.
that way I'm better than everyone else. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah, I think that my goals, a lot of my goals for this year align similarly and almost in some ways just a step behind you in that because I have to learn how to network better in general for these kinds of things because I've always been my experience with networking has comes from sales. I've been a sales guy and I don't like working in sales. So I
uh,
don't like networking in that way. And so I just want to unlearn all of that and try to be more authentic in that, both for me and the other people.
yeah. Sales networking is very different, right?
Hmm.
Because I was in sales too, so I get that. Like it's very um fake.
Super fake.
Yeah.
That's the part that drove me away from it.
Yep. Same.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the guys in the trade, when you're learning from them, they're just like, this is an honorable. This is not what everyone tries to make you think it is, and it is exactly what everyone thinks it is. Car sales, skeeviest fucking business, skeeviest fucking people. The people who are really good at that job, most of them are sleazeballs, and I could I could say that from experience. I was not that great at car sales, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't come off that way. I just couldn't do it.
I was in like I did cell phones, but I didn't work for like the actual carriers. I would always work for third party carriers and stuff. Like I did radio, like I was a Radio Shack manager, and I worked for a national retailer. And it was performance based sales still, and like I had to find ways to sell that I would be consciously willing to do it. Like I was accepting that, and I got really good at selling. Like I was a great salesperson, but I was always doing it within my own like morality, and I didn't lie. I was always honest. And like I made sure to like people were 100% aware of what they were buying and getting into, which is probably why I was also a really good salesperson because most people didn't do that.
That's well, see, I was gonna say I was very much the same way. I was successful. I was not like
Yeah.
the top 10% though, because those guys were the guys that would just tell you what you wanted to hear. I would tell people exactly what was going to happen. And that's how I made most of my sales. I would be like, look, this is what's going to happen. My manager's going to come in here. He's going to tell you that we can't do the price point that you asked for, and he's going to try to make you come up. But we're going to go lower than the price point that you asked for. That way, and then we're going to go up to your original price point. That way, when my manager comes in here, it'll be like, I talked you up. Yeah, that's literally like the kind of shit I would just flat out tell them that. And then after that, I'd be like, and then after all of that's done, you're going to go into the finance manager's office, and he's going to try to sell you on some things. None of it's stuff you need. Some of it's like decent stuff, but really like it's just a spiel, and you don't have to say yes to any of it. And I got, I'm probably gonna get fucking flamed by anybody who's like in that profession for like saying that shit. But that's exactly how I did it. I also want to go back and say I know exactly two people who are very successful in car sales who are very good people, and that is it. Out of all of the people that I have met in that profession, I know two people who are good people. I think.
Yeah. And like just being a salesperson in general takes a like it takes a specific type of personality to be able to do that. And it takes ego.
Mm-hmm.
It like you have to have a big ego. You have to want it. And I think that's why I can't do it anymore because I've really worked on like the ego aspect of like the ego death and removing myself from things and not being driven by ego as much. So that kind of motivation is not motivating anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, So I think that we've talked about things like things that we've learned. We've kind of in talking about like the steps and taking the next step. We've talked about goals and challenges a little bit. What about accountability?
Accountability.
What about
Um,
accountability? How can we help each other right now in this moment and everyone else who might be listening to this?
I think accountability um, is one of those things like, okay, do you want external or do you want self? Right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I struggle with self accountability because when I'm making the rules, I'm not going to listen to that guy.
Yeah.
Like, who am I
Who's
to talk to me like that?
who's this fucking joker
Yeah.
back here in the back of my head telling me I got
So,
to do anything for future me? You know,
right?
this is present me, okay?
Yeah.
This is-
And so like, but when I actually do the things, I'm like, ah, thanks, past me.
yeah.
Um, so external accountability, for me is a little tricky too because I got that good old pathological demand avoidance. So
Hey, we just keep on checking off boxes of how
yeah,
we align.
um, which I actually don't like that definition of it. I like the pervasive drive for autonomy much better because that explains the experience a lot better for me.
That's so I'm gonna type that in because I know someone who is actually learning a lot about PDA for their very young daughter right now, who just got diagnosed, and they're reading a lot of books right now, and it's a lot to take in. And
I
I like that. Will you tell me what that was again?
pervasive drive for autonomy. Um, I can go on a long spiel about PDA, but um, the short version is it is not being defiant. It is a resistance against a lack of choice. So,
Yeah.
and when you approach things in that perception, you're able to navigate it a whole lot better. And I guarantee you, none of the books they're reading are going to be talking like that. Um, because it's always around the demand avoidance, or like, it's always going to be focusing on the defiance aspect of it.
Yeah.
The and it's not going to be like, oh, they're just fighting for their autonomy.
It, for the longest time, it was, well, we talked about this a while back. It was ODD,
Well,
oppositional
ODD,
defiance disorder. Well, that's what PDA would fall under for a long time.
yeah, ODD is actually a different thing than PDA, because PDA is typically specifically to autistic individuals. ODD is just a different thing and like different causes and stuff. But that's diverting from the main conversation, because this is my wheelhouse outside of this. But yeah,
Yeah, that's okay. We're allowed to
um,
do that.
but yeah, 100%. But like but when it goes back to accountability, right? Like, it can be really tricky for myself, because if I seek external accountability and people go, "Hey, do the thing," that makes me feel resistance to them telling me what I should be doing. So my desire to do the thing drops. Now, like, I can kind of like program my brain to accept it, because like I asked for this, right? Like, this is what I asked for. And depending on the person, it's going to affect me differently, right? Like, if I go, "Hey, Chris, since we're doing this together, like, this is what I need in accountability. Can you check in on me or whatever?" And you're like, "Hey, did you do that thing?" That framing it as a question, like, "Hey, did you do it?" Or like, um, "I see you haven't done it yet. What's stopping you?" Right? Like, framing it as a question or being curious or investigative is a lot more helpful, because then it gets me into the mindset of doing the thing and making the choice, instead of feeling forced.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, so that's kind of how I am with external accountability. Um, yeah, because it, it's fun navigating your brain like that.
You said a lot of the same things that I kind of struggle with, and I think we also come to the realization that I also have PDA. Because the reason I brought up ODD in the first place was because I that's what they said I had
Yeah.
growing up. They were like, he's oppositionally defiant. I was like, okay. Um,
Well, fuck you for that.
yeah.
Proving the point.
So yeah, no, I get that, and I'll even like take it a step further in describing that, like how egregious that can be sometimes from an outside perspective. When people send me like video game tip videos, it
Yeah,
it makes me feel like they're putting me into a box and how I should play a game, and it makes me enjoy the game less. So I can't watch stuff like that when people post that to me. It's literally just it's a struggle. It's a struggle that I have with my own brain.
I get that. Um, my like min max brain um likes those tip videos, but I also agree where like it can get to a point where like, don't tell me how to play this. I'm playing it this way, and I'm
Yeah,
finding that this strategy works better for me. Um, yeah, it's a lot more for me if
I would
like,
rather play assassin healer with cloak and dagger. So
yeah,
don't
or
tell me how to
mantis.
play cloak and dagger. Yeah,
Yeah.
Just-
Um, yeah, no, like my big thing is like I could be like getting up and walking to the sink to wash the dishes, and someone mid stride can go like, "Hey, can you wash the dishes?" Or like, are you gonna do the dishes? And I'll be like, Not anymore." Like, don't feel like it anymore. Um,
That does have to almost be a spontaneous, like my body does it before my mind
yeah,
thinks kind of thing.
yeah,
And
it's
that's
not a
really
choice.
hard to explain to people. Like
Mhm.
it's got to be instinctual. Like it's just got to start happening, and then I can fucking clean my house.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it,
I get that.
it can take me a while to clean, and I don't like it. But if the more you tell me to, or the more you pressure me to, or the more you point out that it needs cleaning, the less likely I'm going to do it, and the longer it's going to take.
Yep.
But and I think that's also kind of come down to like anything, because when we apply it to like household chores, but like what do we apply it to professional things, like doing
Oof.
voice acting stuff,
Yeah.
working on things. Like I recognize that like as someone who is doing voice acting and doing all these things of a nonprofit, all this stuff. Like there are a lot of things that I struggle to do quickly because I have to do them. Because
Hmm.
like there are things that I'm required to do. There's no choice in the matter. So
That's
the only autonomy I have in that is when.
yep. That's I get that. Um, one of the things, one of like the little things, a very small thing that I struggle with in that respect is checking my mail.
Yeah.
Like like the physical mailbox of like going out and checking that is always a fucking event for me, and I don't.
It's
I don't even get it. I don't know why it's so hard for me to just go fucking check my mail.
because you
But I
have
make myself do it because I
to.
have to do, yeah, I
Yeah.
have to do it. Like there could be important things in my mailbox, you know?
Oh, see, and the thing is, like, checking the mail is one thing. Opening the mail is another for me.
Yeah, for
There'll be
sure.
like a pile before I get to it. So,
Same here, dude. That's the worst. I have to check my mail today. It's been too many days. I already know that there's important things in there. Um,
but as far as what can we do for accountability and like how to help each other, um, I think it's really just like having that perspective of like, hey, like the check-ins, right? Like, what's going on? What are the hurdles? What are the difficulties? Um, you know, like it's more about the like mental well-being and like checking in on you as a person and not a um production machine.
I think that those are my favorite kinds of check-ins, both to do and to receive. So I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
makes me feel loved and held by you whenever you check in on me in that way. That's
I mean, we don't have to get awkward about it.
I'm not
No,
getting awkward about it. Are
no, no.
you?
I'm getting awkward about it because I'm a
I know.
curmudgeon,
I
remember?
I know I shouldn't have done that. That's
No,
you
no,
didn't ask for
you're
that.
good. You're fine. No, I actually greatly appreciate it. And um I'm just heartless.
Just a Grinch whose
Just
heart hasn't quite grown 3 times too big.
dude, 2025 is making it very difficult to be a curmudgeon, as I've stated. So
Good.
to so
Good.
it's a good thing, but the internal resistance, right? Like, yeah.
There is something that I romanticize in like just by the general definition of what romanticize is that I romanticize about like crankiness and curmudgeoniness
Yeah.
because like my dog Katie, bless her heart, when she was still around, she was such a grumpy dog, and I loved that about her, that she was just a grump. you know
Yeah.
I thought it was my favorite thing about her. I would come in and she would just be like, whoa, just sighing real heavy, and then just like, because she's a big old lemon drop basset hound,
No.
and she would just lay and like her whole face would melt onto the floor, and I'd just be like, "Oh, you grumpy dog, I love you so much."
You know, I as a grump, I feel that when you earn our love, which a not transactional, um, but like when we get to that point where we are more comfortable, I should say, not necessarily earning, it's a comfort, right? Like where you get to that point, because that's really what it is just like feeling that comfort and the safety to be able to express that kind of emotion. Because like it's all there, right? Like it's not, empty, right? It's just the like anxiety, the fear, the discomfort, the like sometimes it's just like reflexive, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not a thing that like I purposely do, but it's just like yeah, I'm in lesbian with you. It's a lot easier to say than you know. Um,
That's fair.
and like it's that's always been that way for me though. Like telling someone I love them, even just like as a friend, has always been really difficult. Be and I don't know, like because it feels like there's so much weight to that word.
You know
Um,
what, though? In my opinion, not to cut you off, I think that the weight of that word is relevant. I think that we should keep that weight behind that word and use it more often.
yes, I
I
and I
don't
think
think
that's
people should. I think that there's like a very real thing in like our society where like people are afraid of that. And I want to see less of that. I want to see less of that fear around like the weight of love, man. I feel so like
yeah. I and the thing is like I agree with you as a person that struggles, right? Like you know, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, like I get it, and like and it it's a desire, but also like keep it at arm's length. But I honestly don't want to as much. So I don't know. It's a very weird battle when it comes to like logically knowing something and then emotionally knowing something.
it's still valid. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Um, Not to just completely change the subject right now. We
and that's
have
what we
been
do.
going for a little while, but I also am down to keep going if you want to hear some really bad voiceovers.
um, you know, how long have we been going?
About an hour, close to an hour.
About an hour.
Mhm.
Um, why don't we save that for next time? I think that would be a good
Okay.
like tune in next time to hear
Okay.
some really bad dubs that we're
Then,
going to be
then,
playing.
then next time we're gonna go over some really bad dubs and how we can improve them, and maybe bring some people in to help us with that.
Yeah. Or we'll
You know,
just do them ourselves, no matter what the role is.
some of them will be franchises that you will be familiar with. Some of them are from old early 2000s JRPGs that happen to get an English translation that they probably didn't need. So, and we're going to
I'm
do our best to improve them in our
yeah.
own way.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that actually. Like to try our hand at redubbing something.
Yeah, I think it will be really fun, and I feel like I picked some pretty fun ones to go over. Um, Again, there's one in here that's an anime from the 90s that I don't know. I could not for the life of me. Maybe you've heard of it, but I could not find what the anime title was because I want to like credit everything that
Yeah.
it's from, but I'm like, where the fuck is this from? And you may have seen the clip before because I had seen the clip before, but it was when I went to go find the title of the anime. I was like, I have no idea how to
Yeah.
even find this. How do you even describe what this anime is? I put in quotes from the bad English dub and still couldn't find anything.
Okay. We'll have to do some more investigating and see if we can
Yeah,
find it. It'll be awesome. But yes. So yes, next time on Voice Boys.
voice boys.
We will be doing some bad dubbing, or we'll redubbing bad dubbing. Was that was that word again? Somatic satiation?
Semantic satiation. Yeah.
Semantic satiation, yeah. Dubbing, dubbing, dubbing.
Sounds like a sound now. No
Yep,
longer a word.
yep. It's just a sound. Dubbing. Anyways, um, yeah, I'm excited for that.
I am too. I'm really excited for it, honestly. And I'll probably look for some more because when I got into the process of finding them, I was like, this is actually really fun. So,
Yeah, and if anyone's listening and you have some like scenes that are like, I know a really good bad dub, send it to us and we'll
yeah,
try
I we're willing to try anything. Give us a shot.
it. Anything? Okay. All right. And yeah, so see you next time.
Bye bye.